Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're jumping right into a really fascinating section of the Quran's 5th chapter, Al-Mā'idah. We're going to unpack its timeless guidance on how to build a just and balanced life, not just for ourselves, but for our communities as a whole. All right, so we're going to break this down into 4 parts. We'll start with our own personal conduct, our internal compass, and then kind of zoom out to look at the systems that hold society together. So let's get started with that foundation. So section 1 is all about finding harmony in divine law. And really, the bedrock of this entire framework is this core principle of moderation, which gets introduced right at the very beginning of this passage.
So right out of the gate, verse 87 lays down this really crucial balance. On one side, you're told, hey, enjoy the good things that God has made lawful. But on the flip side, there's this clear warning. Don't go to extremes. Don't start forbidding things that are perfectly fine, and definitely don't overindulge. It's this powerful call for a balanced, centered way of living.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Verse 88 gives us 2 key ideas that go together, ḥalāl and tayyib. Now, ḥalāl is about what's legally permitted, but tayyib adds another layer. It means something is pure, wholesome, and ethically good. So it's not just about asking, is this technically allowed? The real guidance is to seek out what's genuinely good and beneficial for you.
Okay, so this whole idea of balance and mindfulness, it doesn't just stop at what we eat or drink. It flows right into what we say and do. So let's see how this applies to our words, and specifically to the promises we make.
The text makes this really practical distinction here. You've got your casual, off-the-cuff remarks, what's called lahwa. Thoughtless words, things you don't really mean. For those, you're not held to account. But then you've got the real deal, the serious, deliberate promises. And breaking one of those, well, that's a different story. That requires an act of atonement, which is known as kafara.
And check this out, because this is where you see a core principle just beautifully illustrated. Look at how you make things right after breaking a serious promise. The primary options are all acts of social good, feeding or clothing people in need. It's an amazing way to tie your own personal integrity directly to the well-being of the entire community. Okay, so from watching our words, the lens kind of zooms out to protect the community itself. The guidance identifies 4 specific things to avoid, and these are all grouped together for a reason. They're seen as things that just mess with our judgment, stir up bad feelings, and really tear apart the fabric of social trust. And listen to how strong the language is here. These things aren't just called mistakes, they're called defilement and the work of Satan. I mean, that's powerful stuff. The instruction is to steer clear of them completely if you want to be truly successful. And here's the so what of it all, right? These aren't just random rules pulled out of thin air. The why is spelled out super clearly in the very next verse. They're forbidden because they cause real harm. Socially, by creating animosity and hatred, and spiritually, by pulling us away from remembering God and from prayer. All right, so we've been talking about these big principles for everyday life. Now we're going to shift gears and zoom in on something much more specific, ritual laws. These often serve as a test, a way to check in on one's own sincerity and devotion. Okay, so to get what's coming next, you got to understand this key idea called ihram. Think of it as a special sacred state that a pilgrim enters. It's a time of focus and consecration, and while you're in it, certain everyday actions are put on pause to maintain that sacredness. And what's cool here is how specific the guidance gets. While a pilgrim is in that sacred state of ihram, hunting on land is off limits. But, and this is a really practical detail, game from the sea is totally fine. It's explicitly allowed as food for you and for other travelers. So you might be asking, okay, but why this specific rule about hunting? Well, the text tells us directly, it's a test. It's a test to reveal who truly fears God, even when they're unseen, when nobody else is around to watch. It's all about building that inner conviction. And now for our final section, we're getting into what is maybe the most detailed nuts and bolts legal process in this whole passage. We're talking about how to make sure justice is done when it comes to a person's last will and testament. Yeah, just put yourself in this scenario for a second. Someone is at the end of their life. It's a really vulnerable, critical moment. How do you protect the integrity of their final wishes? How do you make sure nobody tries to pull a fast one? Well, there's a whole legal framework for it. It's this really smart, multi-step process. First, you get 2 just witnesses. Simple enough. But what if people start doubting them? Okay, step 2, those witnesses have to swear a solemn oath after prayer that they're telling the truth. But what if it still turns out they lied? Well, there's a failsafe. two of the heirs can step forward and swear their own oath, saying that their testimony is truer.
And you see the goal here, right? It's just so practical. It's designed to make people think twice before they even consider lying. A potential witness knows, hey, not only am I taking a really serious oath here, but there's a clear legal path for someone to challenge me and overturn my testimony if I'm not telling the truth.
So, when we step back and look at the big picture, what do we see? It's this amazing, complete system for righteous living. It starts with the individual, with moderation. It expands to our integrity, to our words. It sets rules to protect the whole community from division. It uses rituals to test our inner sincerity. And finally, it gives us clear legal procedures to guarantee justice.
And that really leaves us with this big, timeless question. We've seen this incredible blueprint where spiritual principles and practical, nitty-gritty law are woven together so tightly. And it makes you think, for any society, how do we strike that perfect balance between clear divine guidance and the very real, very human challenges of making justice happen here on the ground?